Fanaticism is usually present in various cases. It can be a musical group, books, movies, video games, or television. The latter is interesting because many of us grew up with it. We witnessed many television shows that turned out to be masterpieces compared to current shows. Or at least that's what it seems to all of us who watched them when we were young. And Edd and Eddy is no exception. I grew up watching this show daily as a kid. I just loved it. It was my favorite show. This is how I entertained myself before using the internet. So I thought I could revive memories of the show by searching for episodes on the internet or on paid services. And indeed, I was able to do it. One day, while I was browsing, I came across a blog that was managed by several people, where users who liked the show as much as I did shared their opinions about it and how the show had marked each and every one of them, what it meant to them, and how the most recent chapters did not compare to the classics. Feel free to join the comments and mention my position on the matter. But the forum was not just about opinions. People were constantly sharing ideas for episodes they would have liked to have seen, drawings and illustrations made by the community in reference to the show, and more various things. One of the most active users, who called himself Edd216, contributed a lot in all aspects. He gave his opinion on everything. He drew and even edited videos of the program to make parodies or things like that. If it can be said that someone worshipped the show, that was him. In one of his publications a few days ago, he sent photographs where you could see what seemed to be the walls of his bedroom, where he had a large drawing with all the characters of the show, or at least the main ones, excluding the Canker sisters. But he could see something strange on the wall of his bedroom. Some characters in the show, particularly Rolf, Kevin, and Naz, had a red dot painted on their heads. In the publication, the user commented in English, "I'm done with Rolf. Who's next?" And in the comments of the publication, there were people giving their opinion. They also mentioned the names of several characters, but the most mentioned among all was Johnny. Shortly after, the user made another post where he said, "The choice has been made, so the next one will be Johnny. You know what you have to do. You have 6 months." In the publication, I attached a lot of images of Johnny of all kinds, both drawings and images taken from the show itself, even a .rar file called Johnny's Moments. It seemed a little strange to me, and I was totally confused, since I did not understand the dynamics of this project. I had no idea what was happening. So I reviewed old Edd216 posts, and among them I found one from approximately 6 months ago. And this publication did something similar to what his most recent publication did. A kind of call where he uploaded content about Rolf and encouraged users with the same message as before. You know what to do. The problem is that I didn't know what to do at all. Going back to much older posts, I could see that he did the same type of summons but with Kevin and Naz. And in the latter's post, which was the oldest, no character had a red dot on their head. And in Naz's post, Kevin, who was next to Naz, she did have a red dot on her head as well. It was not difficult to deduce what the aforementioned red dot meant. The user marked the character's head after their respective summons ended, but it seemed very strange to me that every 6 months they made a kind of collage about the character in question, and then marked his head to continue with his strange mechanics, but now with one more character. I resigned myself to not fully understanding what was happening, and instead set about appreciating the content that I had uploaded about Johnny. And after appreciating the images for a long time, I was able to notice something strange. Small and tiny marks on the photographs, so small that they only took up a few pixels. They were extremely difficult to find. Perhaps I was slowly understanding the dynamics. I had to find clues for anything, something, but I don't know what it was. The first clue I found said V34 40345P4. Although I did not understand well, I wrote down the clue in a blog of notes, and I continued analyzing the images, and some clues were difficult to find. I realized that in some cases it could be seen with the naked eye, since the background colors hid the text, or in other cases, I even had to edit the image to appreciate the clue, but they were all the same style. By watching the videos, I could see that they were nothing out of this world, ordinary videos. So I dared to send a message to the user asking what the dynamic consisted of, but days, weeks, months passed, and I never got a response. So let me forget the whole thing and dedicate myself to my things. Sometime later, while I was cleaning my PC, I found all the files that Edd216 had uploaded in the notes blog that I had created with the tracks I found. There were 10 tracks and they all ended with a P and a number. I decided to base it on that to order them from 1 to 10, just to kill time, and I began to do the math. The 6-month deadline would soon be met, in fact in a few days, but I didn't pay much attention to it and continued with my thing. The day arrived, and the deadline was met, and I had not been able to interpret the clues until at the last moment a flash came to my mind and understood. Perhaps the clues indicated a video number and its time. I started to review the videos, trying to find something in the specified duration that marked each track, and I could notice for 1,000th of a second that a different frame was projected from the rest of the video. I tried to pause the video at the precise moment in which the image appeared, but I was unable, so I used a video editor to be able to stop the precise frame. And this is how I could see it clearly. In a part of the frame, a small character appeared, like a letter or a number. So I collected the characters as quickly as possible that I could based on the clues. But the character of the last clue was different. It added the ending, .onion. So I could realize that when everything was united, a kind of link belonging to the deep web was formed. And using the appropriate browser, I entered with a little anxiety and fear at the same time. And there it appeared. It was a very strange page which had a video window in the center which said, "The broadcast has ended." Whatever was shown on the page had ended. It had arrived late. I visited the blog again, and a post made a few minutes ago appeared where Edd216 said, "I just broke up with Johnny. Now who's next?" He uploaded a photo of his wall again, where Johnny now also had a red dot on his head. I was frustrated that I didn't get to see whatever happened, but at least now I knew what the dynamic was. Maybe I could catch the next broadcast. Now in the publication, many suggested Sarah, and the second most voted was Ed. I was constantly checking the blog, but it was not until after 3 days that Edd216 made another publication where he said the following: "Well, the next one will be Sarah, but I don't like that many have voted for Ed. He will be the last, and I want to make it clear once and for all. This is getting too easy and I'm giving you too much time, so now things will change a bit. I'll give you only 3 months to figure it out, and the clues will be much harder to find. Anyway, they have 3 months. They already know what to do." As on other occasions, I attached a bunch of files referring to Sarah, and although I already knew what to do, it was extremely difficult to find the clues. They were more hidden than ever. You had to flip the images, join them together. In short, it was a lot of work. But after a great effort, he was able to complete it in under just 2 months. I found the 10 clues and the 10 characters hidden in the videos, and so I was able to join the link. I tried to enter, and a message appeared that said, "The transmission begins in 1 month, 3 days, 3 hours, 24 minutes, and 49 seconds. And the counter was going down. Apparently it had arrived too soon, so I dedicated myself to doing my things in the rest of the time, and wrote down in my reminders to visit the page when the broadcast was going to start. The established time passed, and I entered the link again. There were 2 minutes left until the transmission began. I was eager to see it, but I had to wait those few seconds for the transmission to begin, and it did. You could see a man wearing a black leather mask with ordinary clothing, and he began to speak in English. He was welcoming and congratulating all of us users who had been able to solve the puzzle, and as a reward, we would be one of the few to witness his act. She was silent for a few seconds, and then she left the shot so that the camera would capture what was in the background. It was a woman tied up and dressed in a pink shirt, blue jeans, and her hair was horribly dyed a strong orange tone, as if it had been forced. It was not difficult to deduce that it was a kind of cosplay of Sarah. However, it was clear that this woman was subjected against her will. The man who had appeared at the beginning of the video entered the scene with a rather sloppy outfit that looked very similar to Ed's. He began to yell things at the woman and hit her. I couldn't make out what he said exactly, but I had managed to understand something. Another insult, the blows became increasingly lethal. The woman screamed for help, but no one came to save her. The brutal man took a large kitchen knife and began to attack the woman, starting at her stomach, continuing with her arms, and ending with her face, until the woman stopped screaming. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was total carnage. The murderer took the intestines from the woman's corpse and showed them on screen. There was a small comment section in which everyone requested that different parts of the body be shown, from limbs to organs. But I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go to the bathroom to vomit, and I stayed there looking in the mirror. I didn't understand what was happening, and I was terrified to go back to my computer to close the page. But that's when I stopped hearing noise coming from the PC. I walked closer and the transmission had ended. I didn't know whether to call the police or keep everything I knew to myself. So I decided to forget about it and pretend that it never happened. I tried to block the event from my mind at all costs and forget about the blog, Edd216, and everything that happened, and I decided to never visit the page again. They say that curiosity killed the cat, and perhaps it is true. A few months have passed after the horror that I had to see in that broadcast, and I have decided to visit the page again. All this time I have tried not to think about it, but each time I give the topic more thought. I start thinking about all the people who have already died that way, and all those who have been dying while I have not visited the blog. But I feel unable to do anything. Maybe if I notify the authorities, my life is in danger. I don't know. The most recent publication, which was from 2 months ago, mentioned that the next one would be Eddie, and in the photograph, almost everyone had a red dot on their head, except for Eddie and Double D. That meant that in my absence, he had already killed Jimmy. Ed, if we can call innocent victims that, had been given a deadline of 3 months again. So in a short time, he would broadcast Eddie's execution live. I completely regret having visited the blog. I closed it, and no matter how much I try not to enter it again, curiosity ends up defeating me. A month has passed. I'm promptly checking the blog, and today, Edd216 has published something. Well, we're done with Eddie. We only have the jackpot left. You know who's next. Tomorrow I will upload Ed's content. Double D. Throughout the night, I questioned whether the best thing would be to forget about it or observe what happened to the next victim, since the murderer identified himself as Double D. So again, I could not overcome my curiosity, and I was willing to spend as much time as possible to solve the puzzle and access Double D's video. And I hope the last video the psychopath will broadcast. As I had said, Edd216 uploaded content and indicated that this time he would only give a period of 1 month to solve the riddle. I started to think that perhaps this riddle would be extremely difficult to deduce, and I was right. I don't think I had ever seen a riddle so difficult in my life. It was hell to solve it. I had to use image editing, video, and I even had to do a little research on other languages, such as Chinese, Latin, Portuguese, German, among others, to decipher the clues. But a few hours before the deadline, I was able to solve the puzzle. I got into trouble when I found out that some of the clues were false, but I solved it in the end. I entered the page, and this time it was a little different. In the central part, there was a message that said, "The transmission will begin in 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 5 seconds. And the new thing was that under this message, there were several videos. Videos with names of the characters of the series. I clicked on Sarah's video, and it was indeed what I feared. It was videos of each of the characters. I recognized Sarah's perfectly because it's the only one I had seen, and I decided to watch the others. For the love of God, those videos became more and more grotesque. The first ones were murders that could be considered simple, with firearms, for example, but as the video progressed, they became more and more lethal. Naz's was the shortest of all. It was a clean shot to the head. In Kevin's case, the victim was beaten with metal pipes that appeared to be parts of a bicycle, and then was finished off with a gun. Rolf's was quite grotesque. He was skinned alive until his agonizing death, but perhaps the most shocking thing is that his remains served as breath for a lot of dogs, and it was all on video. Johnny's was somewhat predictable. He was beaten with a board with a drawing of a face until he died. You already know what Sarah's was. And perhaps the most grotesque was Jimmy's, since they installed various torture devices on the victim's head. I simply was not able to see it in its entirety. In Ed's case, the victim was placed in a large hole that seemed to contain oil, so it could be seen that he barely fit in it, and he was boiled to death. And lastly, Eddie. In this video, the victim received quite lethal torture. He was forced to carry bags that seemed to be full of coins, and to walk from one place to another. And every time the victim tried to take a break or throw a coin, he was beaten with a whip by the murderer. While this evil being said, "Isn't that what you always wanted, Eddie?" Between watching the videos and taking slight breaks to try to process what was happening, time ran out and the transmission had begun. When I opened the video, it had started, but you could see the murderer, Double D, in the middle of the screen, thanking all the viewers for his effort in solving the riddles, and for his consistency with the videos. He said goodbye and left the room. He returned accompanied by 3 horrible-looking girls, who were like kind of an interpretation of the Canker sisters. Each one possessed a knife, a hammer, a bat, and a metal pipe. While Double D was laughing, the Canker sisters began to beat him brutally. But even so, Double D did not stop laughing, as if he were enjoying what was happening to him. After a few blows, they concentrated on his head until Double D stopped laughing, but they did not care. And they continued until they disfigured his skull. One of the girls moved the camera pointing at Double D's body and said, "Have you ever wondered what's under Double D's hat?" And he raised his hat so that the viewers could appreciate the grotesque image of Double D's broken skull with remains of his brains. That was just too much for me. I closed the page immediately and went to the bathroom again to throw up. I've been locked in my bedroom for several hours. I don't know what to do. I don't know how someone can live after seeing everything I've seen. I don't even know if what I saw was real. I can no longer distinguish what is real and what is not. But luckily, Double D is here with me. He's very intelligent. Surely he'll be able to explain to me what happened. What do you think about it, Double D? And that was Edd216 written by, well, anonymous, really. Okay, so before I get into the review for this read, I want to point out that this is a relatively obscure story that is, well, exclusive to the Spanish creepypasta wiki. So I read this entire thing Google translated, which was kind of hard to do. So if you spotted a few grammatical errors, misusages of pronouns, then that was, uh, yeah, that was probably the translation's fault. But anyways, review time. Call me nuts. Call me a nutcase, but I really liked this story. However, the ending confused the hell out of me. For starters, I want to say that this sounds like a very believable thing to happen, and instead of it just being, oh, posted on YouTube, just posted on a forum, it's codes upon codes leading to deep web content, which I find very creative, something that hasn't been done in a very long time. And not to mention, I like how in the story the deaths upon the people that this Edd216 guy dresses up as the characters. He even uses tactics to kill them based on their likes and stuff from the show. For example, Kevin is beaten to death with bike parts because he rides a bike. Johnny is beaten up with basically plank, and Eddie is forced to carry pennies and coins, and like he's tired every time he puts the coins down, he gets whipped. That's creative too, because it's like this Edd216 guy thinks that he's Double D. Or better yet, he idolizes Double D. Kind of like how there's actual people in real life who idolized Jeff the Killer and Slender Man, leading to some pretty infamous news reports. Yeah. However, this is what I really didn't get the ending. It's like this guy goes into detail about the things he saw in the deep web post. First of all, I'm wondering, like, I can understand why he was afraid to contact the police because he was afraid that this person would find him and kill him. I understand that. I understand he was afraid. He was scared. However, the ending is just, oh, I'm so scared that Double D is with me right now, and I want him to know what he think. I want to know what he thinks. I want to tell him about my experience. What do you think, Double D? And then it ends right there. What does that point to? Like, that could mean literally several things at once. It could mean Edd216 was the guy writing this the entire time and he had some sort of, I guess, alter ego. It could mean, like, oh, I just went crazy after watching this. I'm so desensitized that I imagine the characters being with me right now, haunting my every move. It's just, it's very vague and I don't understand it. Yeah, I really don't get what's going on in the ending. Overall, this took the basic idea of, oh, killer with a knife and actually made it interesting to read. So author, props to you for that. My final rating would have to be an 8. An 8 mainly because the ending was so confusing that it kind of messed up the continuity.
But as always, this is simply my personal opinion. We all have our opinions regarding these pastas. What did you think of the pasta? What would you have done to improve upon it? And as always, I will see you all in the next narration. I love you all. Bless.